At the American Policyholder Association and American Policyholders for Fair Insurance Claims, our objective is to educate prosecutors and support candidates who are interested in protecting consumers. The Attorney General elections are a very important part of this process. There's an upcoming election in Texas that we're planning to be involved with, and there's also an upcoming election in New Mexico that we're already involved with. Doug and I sat down and spoke about the importance of supporting good candidates. Check it out. Doug, you and I have talked a lot about the importance of electing the right people into positions of power, positions where they're regulating insurance companies. How much is it going to affect the APA's mission to make sure that the right people are holding office?
It is critical to the APA's mission because we need people who are going to be collaborative partners in law enforcement. So to have an elected official who's more closely associated with insurance carriers, even if it's clandestinely, versus somebody who is more favorable to defending the people is very important.
That makes a lot of sense. One candidate that you and I have spoken with on multiple occasions is Brian Colón. He's running for Attorney General of New Mexico, and I think he's been outwardly in support of the APA's mission. How important is it for contractors to get behind candidates like that, even if they're not residing in New Mexico?
Brian is an exceptional candidate from the APA standpoint. I mean, he comes from he's not a silver spoon kid. He comes from a poor background. He has worked his way up. He is currently the state auditor. He is a certified fraud examiner, and he's also an attorney. And this is a guy who has worked incredibly hard to overcome childhood in poverty and be able to be of service to the people. Why is that important for contractors? Really for everybody. Because even though you're not from the state of New Mexico or any given state, having an elected official like that who has an ability to be on the national stage, to influence the National Association of Attorneys General, a lot of these AGs will work together collaboratively. A lot of them have worked themselves into a position of influence with other attorneys general. So it's really important that we have somebody in there who's not afraid to take on insurer fraud. Carrier side fraud, because that sets the example and it also sets the agenda nationally for the other elected officials, most likely the ones in your state as well.
So does it make sense for us to try to operate in a state where we have elected officials that are friendly to our mission so that we can make some progress, maybe get some prosecutions, some convictions, and then be able to build momentum based on that?
Yes, a common thing I will hear when addressing state legislatures or dealing with state regulatory bodies is, what are other states doing? It's almost as though they're looking for someone else to take the lead. They want to make sure that it's proven, that there's no risk associated, that it's not, a failed effort. So when we have a state that has a friendly legislature, that has a friendly attorney general, that's the area where we want to focus some of our efforts, because we can push the ball further and they in turn become the example that we bring to your state and other states that say, hey, look, it's working really well over here. I can't tell you how often I hear that question. What are other states doing? And if another state's not doing it, it's very common that they don't want to do it either. There's an odd little thing with some of these political officials where they're afraid to take risks. Brian Colón is somebody who will take the risk, who will set up new examples, who will set up new systems, and he's certainly not afraid to defend the people against insurer-side fraud.
Doug, especially for people who aren't familiar with different departments of the government, what's the importance and role of an attorney general?
The attorney general is the top law enforcement official in every state, and they often have an appetite to take on white-collar crime. A lot of people think, hey, I'm going to go to the local police department and report crime, and it'll go to my county district attorney or my parish prosecutor. But a lot of times those prosecutors are overwhelmed with street crime. It's hard for them to take on a white-collar case. especially if they are complicated. It's against a powerful opponent like the insurance industry. And again, white collar crime, very difficult, takes a lot of investigative hours. It takes a lot of time and energy, and it doesn't necessarily, it's not, in the prosecution community, they'll say it's not necessarily sexy, like defending the people from a murderer or a rapist or an armed burglar. So the Attorney General has the ability to take on a white collar case. They have the investigative ability, they have the prosecution ability, they have the resources, and they are able to take on complicated cases. And some examples of that would be like the opioid crisis, big tobacco. They have done some very important, powerful cases that they've brought down very powerful interests in defense of the people. So it's one of the reasons why they call the Attorney General the people's lawyer, because they do represent us on a high level and nationally.
In your experience, do a lot of attorney generals have political will to prosecute and go after insurance companies?
I can't speak to the will because we haven't got to that stage yet, because in reality, the system of reporting insurance fraud is geared toward defending insurance companies. It is built, designed, and funded to defend insurance companies. Every insurance company has a special investigation unit. They are the ones that develop cases. They walk them into prosecutors. In many cases, they are funding the prosecutors with grants and premium taxes. So where is the consumer who pays for all this with their taxes and premiums represented in that system? We even saw an insurance commissioner in one of the states just 3 days ago admit that most of his cases come from insurance companies.
Sure.
So I don't think the cases against insurance companies are getting reported to the attorneys general. That's why the APA is here. We're the first organization that actually gathers information on insurer fraud, carrier side fraud, and turns them over to prosecutors. So we're still along the route on that. And good.
You've met with a lot of attorneys general. We've met with some of them together. You've met with insurance commissioners. In your personal experience, does it seem like a majority of them have a desire to go after and prosecute insurance company employees? Or would you say it's a minority that have verbally committed to picking up this mission that the APA has to hold insurance companies accountable for fraud?
In terms of insurance commissioners, I will say it is a minority. In terms of attorneys general, I'd say it's a little too early to tell because the proof is in the pudding. When we bring them a case, are they willing to prosecute? And that's the big proof. And we haven't put in enough cases to make a good example of that. I think these are public prosecutors. It's distasteful to go after a very powerful industry like the insurance industry if you're an elected official. What's it going to be like when you run for office next and they come in with millions of dollars and fund your opponent because you sort of went against them? You're not a friendly face that's going to be pro-insurance. I understand their position. However, these are public prosecutors. They are people who could make a heck of a lot more money if they were out there in private practice. They have instead chosen the path of public service at great sacrifice to themselves. So they will do the right thing if properly educated and good cases are turned into them. I'd say right now we have a minority of people, if any, who have taken on the insurance industry.
Well, let me bring up Brian Colón again. He's the current state auditor of New Mexico. He's running for attorney general, and he's been outspoken and verbal about his support of the APA mission. How important is it for APA members to get behind that sort of momentum and make sure that we have people like that in office to help us move this ball forward?
Very important, and it has a national impact. If we were to sit in a lab and design the perfect attorney general, Brian Colón would have almost every single feature. Again, he's very focused on defending consumers. He is an attorney. He is a CFE, a certified fraud examiner. So he understands these things better than the average bear. And so an attorney and an accountant and a CFE on top of that. He was the state comptroller, and he is very empathetic to consumers who get taken advantage of by insurance companies as well as the adjusters and engineers that they hire. So he is literally the ideal candidate, and he's somebody that will have an impact on a national stage if and when he is elected.
Doug, thank you so much. I appreciate this mission and everything we've worked toward, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Tej. Let me do one more thing. I understand that for some people, you want to focus on the elected officials in your state. It might be difficult to understand how an elected official in another state is going to have an impact on your life, on your customers, on your family. But the reality is these attorneys general all work together. They belong to several national organizations. They share information. They do joint prosecutions. And having somebody in there who is friendly to the APA's mission to defend consumers from insurer fraud, who is not afraid to take on a very powerful industry like the insurance industry, will have an impact on the national stage, will have an influence on all the other attorneys general, and in reality will have an impact on your home state, your family, your business, your neighbors.